let's go. Straight in to King of the Hill. Okay, now this it just gets better and better. Folks, I didn't know that this was King of the Hill. I actually didn't know that. The reason I think that's pretty hype is actually we've now got 2 AoE2 legends playing on what I'd classify as more of an AoE2 map. I think that's why maybe, like, there's, some people do enjoy AoE, the King of the Hill as well as the Pit. Some people really don't like King of the Hill because it kind of feels boxed in or a little bit too pre-configured. And I think, like, pre-configured maps are more to the liking of people who really probably engage with AoE too. So it's quite fun that out of all the maps they could have played on, they get the one that's probably most like home. And for those unfamiliar with these two, I'm sure more of you know Doubt by now in the Age of Empires 4 community. This guy has been in and out all about. Has started grinding Age of Empires 4 in the last 2 to 3 weeks, trying to prep himself for an opportunity to qualify for the Warlord Legacy event for the bigger prize pool. Because he's already qualified for the AoE 2-1 by default from being a previous victor there. He decided to come through and try and make it happen elsewhere as well. And thank you, Crackety, for the subs. See, look at that right now. You can see how hyped people are. Sure, if anyone else wants to show the hypes with subs, I don't mind that. But this is a really cool one. Like, Doubt, kind of recently started practicing. And Winchester, because he qualified for the Age of Empires 2 Warlord, decided almost instantly, like, yep, I'm just going to go and actually, I'm going to prep myself for AoE 4 as well. So he's been grinding. He's part of the SALS CIS esports team. So kind of hyped to see what he can do, considering his teammate who's been in this scene hasn't been able to do that much. In fact, Sal's good game at the time of recording is down to around about rank 500, not doing too well. Meanwhile, Winchester is now up in 65th. Doubt has been floating around that area as well. He's currently 68th, so he actually lost positioning against Winchester. Pretty cool to see how quickly Vinny Boy is actually escalating up those leaderboards. Whether it's going to convert into performances in the Road to Warlord, I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see. But I'm excited to see what these kind of guys can do because, the weekly points is likely when you're talking about people that are going to qualify via weekly points or via the monthly. I don't necessarily see people like Doubt or Winchester making it through there. They need to actually get probably a top 2 performance in both of the weeklies, I think, to stand a chance of getting in on weekly points. And then, of course, to stand a chance of really appearing in the monthlies, you need at least like a top 2 finish. Doesn't seem feasible when you consider you've got the likes of Poppy Paw, Beastie, all the qualified players already that are playing a lot of these weeklies. Where this could get really interesting is the last chance qualifiers. Last chance qualifiers is where, what's happened before doesn't necessarily matter. It's what you do in the moment. And I mean, it shows a damn good rate of improvement that Vinny is already up in the top 70. And the funny part is he started, I think, like 2 weeks after Doubt. Which is crazy to think about. Like, Doubt is always talked about as a very mechanically skilled player, but Winchester should not be slept on either. This guy is the CIS prodigy. I think he's... I mean, Chow, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's probably the most talented CIS player in AoE 2. Pretty cool to see that converting. Especially with the way that he's gathering the bounty at the start of this game. 330 bounty is a good number, especially on a more condensed map like King of the Hill. Using these type of maps with the more predictable spawns, it should be somewhat feasible for your opponent to block out a little bit of extra game. But in this situation, Doubt doesn't get to play the game that way. He went double scout, didn't really deprive that much. Got a reasonable amount of sheep back at home. But then again, I think Vinny also has some returning soon. I mean, I hope so, because... Okay, there we go. He passed them off. So he's got 7 coming back. So they more or less got even numbers when it came to sheep. So this is a pretty big deal, actually. Like, I actually think Winchester's off to a phenomenal start. This is also one of the civs that can actually handle the English quite well in the early game. It's deceptive because you think, oh, long bows versus short bows. No, like no way. The normal archers win, right? The thing about the Rus, and this is putting the knights element aside, which of course is a big deal, yes, is if you do get into an archer race against the Rus, you have to be very quick about your timings, because the longer it takes for you to close out the game, the more it can actually shift in favor of the Rus player due to their ability to float a lot more wood. Remember, the English, this civ, every single archer unit, sure, the longbowmen are better than the archers in terms of range, not so much in certain other stats, but you're paying a premium in the food department, which isn't as bad, but you're still paying 50 wood per unit. And where that's a really big difference maker is on the other side. For the Roost, they're able to get an extra 20% on drop-off via the wooden fortresses. You can never underrate the importance of the benefits you get from this. And it looks like the opening is going to involve the knights we mentioned. Even in a vacuum, archers can beat out Lombos en masse, but he says, why would I make it difficult myself? Vinny will go for the most logical opening, and Doubt will go for the greedy type. That makes a lot of sense on a map like this, in a matchup like this. He goes on to the stone straight away. Now, unfortunately for him, there's probably not going to be a good placement for a TC around here. It actually looks like the layout of the Deers is going to block a town center from being placed up here. So you won't necessarily be able to play the secondary TC into a choke point on Deer stacks. The reason this is a big deal was actually the most optimal way, at least in my opinion, to make the rush TC build work for the English is to go onto a food source which floats you up. Whether that's something like a boar because for some reason there's a boar next to you, or more commonly deers like we see in Altai, it allows you to more easily access Castle Age and then insulate yourself with more farms being set up while also pushing out military force to rebuttal any attacks coming your way. Well, speaking of boars and other food sources you can play out to, Vinchester's going to be the one to move out first. This was scouted out by Doubt. And Doubt has built up 6 longbowmen, so he could be frustrating here. Downside possibly for Doubt is on a map like King of the Hills. Is if Winchester drops a wooden fortress on the north side here, you can't do anything. But screw a wooden fortress, it's going to be the TC build. I love this as well. In this corner, having access to the gold. Not just the gold, look where Winchester is played towards. There's 2 relics right in front of him. He's just inherently going to block these out from Doubt if they do somehow match up in their Castle Age timings. Of course, this is one big benefit for the Roost, is just how quickly they can unlock a secondary TC via the Golden Gate. And the impressive part, actually, about the way that he done this is, remember, because Winchester got so much bounty, he was able to afford the trade into the TC from the Golden Gate while also pushing knights in the meantime. That was actually really well played there. I think that was an adjustment as well because you can't do it by default. This, however, was a little bit greedy. Winchester tried to double down, went onto the deer, didn't respect the fact that he's up against the English longbows. Longbows that are now counting up towards double digits. And the thing to keep in mind is Doubt might be going for the secondary TC, sure, but this is a guy who's not afraid of prolonged feudal and a lot of aggression. And I wouldn't be surprised if, with the secondary TC being dropped, he will escalate into his longbow count. And it looks like I was wrong. There was just enough room to fit it in here. That's my own fault for being a panoramic view. So he actually gets a really good placement. And I like this. This is genuinely, mark it down, folks. This is the way you do this build. It has to be onto deer. I think like if you rush the TC otherwise, the delay on getting your eco up because of the side investment to farms sets you back on your castle timing, and most other civs will be there by the time you arrive. And it just feels like at that stage in a lot of these matchups, you end up playing from behind. Winchester will now start to push out some horsemen alongside the knights just to make sure that he can move back out onto the deer. And remember that Vinny did get his second TC down a decent amount quicker, but because of those strikes onto the deer stack, Doubt was able to even up the villager count. Winchester says it's fine. I've got 2 more scouts where that came from. Probably not the best way to use them so far. Diving into the base a little bit ambitiously. You've got to respect the English TCs due to their double TC fire. To be honest, that wasn't even to do with double TC fire. That was just him walking into a TC. Now these walls going up. CI's trying to block him, but oh, no doubt. That's going to be frustrating. A few villages might be taken down here. In fact, he's actually committing to this. It's going to cost him a knight. So considering he only got 2 villages out of that, I don't think that's worthwhile to lose the knight for that. Especially considering you didn't really achieve much idle. That being said, Doubt seems to have skipped a beat elsewhere. He's now 5 villages behind. By the looks of it, he may have idled on one of these TCs. In fact, when you look at the food numbers, it's probably exactly what happened there. Already being forced to set up farms, despite the fact he's on the deer, can be a little bit crippling. And apparently his timings were slightly off, probably due to the fact that he had to go into Spearman there. So that probably drained the small quantity of food he had set for that transition into farms. And as a result, just like that, Vinny now finding himself up 4 to 5 villages. And looking to find his way up in a different way. We can see the numbers quickly escalating, and there's a good reason behind this. Winchester has seen the investment that Doubt has made. Doubt has quite a lot of military at this stage. 14 longbows and 4 spears. Now, this initially seems good. You can do something because your opponent's rushing castle, right? not so right. This is one of the rough things about the English. When you get caught with this number of troops on the defensive, when you over-military on the defensive, your opponent can actually exploit that. Because the issue you have is not just A, that this is a static, slow-moving army, is that B, longbowmen don't reach in very well. You know, these aren't units that are phenomenal at diving, and you're also paying a premium compared to normal archers if you did want to dive, right? You wish you could have archers in that situation. And you also can't really delete buildings. The only thing you can do is try to idle eco or catch someone in the tech up. And he won't be able to do that because Vinchester is going for a corner build. It is going to be the high trade house. Interesting choice, but makes a lot of sense. We've seen it a lot in the past on King of the Hill. And I think he knows that Doubt can't reach castle quickly. Also, keep in mind, because Doubt did go into this military force, it's very risky to play Abbey of Trinity and just walk your warrior monks out to their death. So I actually quite like this choice by Vinchester. And it'll give him the needed gold to get out the first few knights and start to plow in. You know, he has got the gold on the south side, but between upgrades and the production of knights, this won't be enough on its own. So the extra trickle of gold is going to add up. And yes, Crackety, you are right. If he chopped the corner of the tree, he would have had an even better spawn. But he didn't want to go for that. In fairness, he doesn't have forestry, right? So it would have taken quite a while to chop that tree down. I'm sure you can commit multiple workers to it, but I think he just wants the quickest tech up time for good reason. Like, you know, this kind of min-max optimization logic seems good in theory, but then you have to keep in mind what you're sacrificing. Another 7, 8, 9 seconds, especially when you know Doubt's running towards your base. You don't want to give that time. So I'm totally fine with him not getting the most optimal. Let's get some guesses in the chat on how much gold he's getting from this. Remember, he's on a tier 3 bounty. It's going to be a lot. How much will he get from that high trade house? For reference, this hunter cabin is giving 55 right now, so that should give you a little tipsy-do towards the guesses here. I'm going to guess probably 260. It's actually 283. Well, we're talking about that eco. We've got to talk about a different kind where Vinchester's having a few of his villagers cut down for free. He's buying a lot of time, though, due to these wooden fortresses. No attempt to dive because Doubt can't easily do it. All right, you all want to be frugal with your guessing. It's 324 gold per minute from the high trade house. More than 3 relics of gold generation. And keep in mind, due to Vinchester's posturing on the south side, he's going to at least have 2 more relics he's going to get to pick up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to King of the Hill. I mean, this is so high because he got the 3rd tier bounty. This probably would have been about 260, 280. But 324. Mwah. C'est le magnifique. Tech up finally coming out from Doubt. He was delayed in comparison, but Vinchester really hasn't had a chance to jump out of his base so far. In fact, Vinchester's playing a very kind of slow opening by the looks of it. Where is his military? What? I guess he took a whoopsie-daisy of a fight here. Looks like he exchanged out, but done so poorly. Doubt, as a result, keeps that pressure up. South side is still totally free for him, though. You can see Monastery now being structured to pick up those 2 relics for free. And then wall set up on the east side to make sure no attacks come in over there. And actually, Vinchester, if he wanted to go about this in a crafty way that could be really impactful, he could just set up a stable or 2 on the south side and wrap knights into the economy of Doubt, because Doubt hasn't walled himself in. Quite criminal that he hasn't done this, considering how far forward he's playing. And Marine Lord trying to say that these poor AoE2 players having to play on King of the Hill. Look, in fairness, I said at the start of the game, I actually think that they probably prefer this type of map because it's closer to home, really. That's the thing. That's why I think AoE 4 people are quite polarized by King of the Hill, is because it's more like AoE 2. It's a lot more like AoE 2. When you look at all the other AoE 4 maps, this one is probably the closest to a pre-config. Okay, fair enough about the King of the Hill being better, but my point is around the idea of like resources being predictable, things being predictable, right? Especially when you consider things like Lipany in the default map pool. That's when you really get into the I don't know what I'm getting today situations. I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see how many people do like this type of map as well in AoE 4. Makes me wonder if we'll get a few more locked-in type maps in terms of the way they're configured. Not necessarily the size of them, right? You don't need to have the map be smaller like it is on King of the Hill. But the idea that the resources are quite predictable and the locations are quite predictable. Winchester has started to build up a military force finally, but keep in mind Doubt caught up, so this early fuel investment has paid off. He got away with it. It seemed like Winchester baited him pretty well. Now, Vinny, yes! Oh, man. Okay, now I am curious. We've got a few pro-level players in the chat. Do you guys think the hunting cabin build is viable? Because this is something that actually we don't see any AoE4 full-time pros attempt anymore because it just seemed like it wasn't worth it back in the days. But has something changed? Has something changed the build-up? Has something changed in the value? I think especially on a map like King of the Hill, there's some validity behind it. He's getting a lot of gold here. 39, 48, 39 here. Let's not forget the 324 in the corner, as well as the default one he set up at the beginning, the 55. It's a hell of a lot of gold. And I agree, it is cool on a lot of maps when we reach 500. It's just we don't really see it on other maps. I think you are right that it comes down to a map like King of the Hill, which is slower. The only other time I've seen it on look good, shall we say, on the ladders was a long time ago. I think it was when Viper done it on Highview against a Muslim. But the difference there is that was back when you could just push knights non-stop because you had the bracing bugs where certain civs spearmen wouldn't brace. So, like, you know, the problem with actually whipping out the hunting cabins on a lot of maps is when you play open map formats, you're investing 100 resources for someone that can easily be torched down at any point, considering it only has 750 health. And if you think about a lot of the maps in the rotation, they have wood that spawns 40 your base. So you're actually doing this in the mid-map where it can more easily be raided and taken out. These Lombos have not given over that high ground. Would love to see Doubt get into Sacred Site capping here. He has started picking up relics, but right now with his posturing, I think it just makes sense to take the Sacred Site right now, set the timer in motion, and it forces Winchester to respond, because right now Winchester's just getting to live rent-free on this map. And remember, because he's setting up all these hunting cabins, long-term, this is very much going to benefit him. Not to mention the fact that if you're just trying to relic race, you've already lost that race, right? You'll get 2 of these relics, but Winchester's already got 2. He'll definitely get the 3rd one on the north side. Just a better idea to come out here straight away, get that gold trickle, and more importantly, give a target for winning this matchup. And here's the risk of you waiting too long as well. I mean, you already see the Mangonels. Doubt looks like he is now starting to posture for this, though. He is saving up for the keep, so we'll get a keep drop on the central Sacred Site. Meanwhile, Winchester's just trying to make sure no flanks come in, as he's going to look to wall up the north side after doing the south. Well, Winchester, oh, Doubt does it just out of range here. And he should know it's just out of range due to where the scout's located. Interestingly enough, actually, Winchester could have scouted this if he'd gotten Castle Watch, but quite an underrated tech, I think, especially on maps like this where one Wooden Fortress with Castle Watch will see pretty much everything in the center. And now, Doubt will see the Mangonels, so realize what threat he has coming. He'll back up for now, and the problem is the Mangonels, looks like there's no greased axles coming in. They move a little bit too slow to do anything about this keep. In fact, actually, that is with the greased axles. Interesting. Deceptive nature going uphill, I guess. Felt like he was going a little bit slow. Time is bought, nonetheless, so Doubt. Love the way he postures north side as well, just to make sure if Winchester did overcommit, he'd instantly be able to punish him. Mango doesn't even kill off the bonk. The Sacred Site is now capped. This is where things get annoying for Winchester. The problem is you can't even look to just, you know, sneak in, decap the Sacred Site. You can't try and trade out either, not with this attack speed buffer here. It's where you need to get the trebuchets. Looks like Vinny was already getting the first one out. Second one is being prepped to be pumped. Doubt now getting the network of citadels. And I believe he's going to be going into Springles here. You have to in this situation. The only concern with Springles is like there's a lot of knights you're up against, but your spearman count is good. I think he just needs to get some anti-siege out. There's not really much justification in going for a trebuchet yourself right now. These wooden fortresses are annoying, but they're not preventing you from holding the Sacred Site. Let's see, Doubt is at least prepping Military Academy. We see this more and more often, and yep, Winchester looks like he is going to be going in for the Castle Watch. If you want to know what this is worthwhile, watch the change in vision here. Boom. basically another keep worth of distance all around him. It's actually very high value. It also allows him to see the flanks freely now as well. Well, this is usually the moment where people kind of find King of the Hill a little bit awkward, right? The stalemate. What will happen and how long we have to wait. It's kind of weird, actually. I think this type of map has become more polarizing due to a lot of the maps in rotation, forcing interaction sooner. It's weird as well because, you know, we talk about this idea of, like, dragging people out of their base to make things happen. And technically, King of the Hill has that. It just has it in one location in a very kind of linear fashion. Compared to maps like Frisian, where it's like come out onto the sacred sites, but also come out to the fish, right? These type of maps like Kawasan has as well, come out to the central fish on multiple ponds. It feels like there's a few more options available to players, whereas, as you can see, King of the Hill, it turns into a little bit of trench warfare. Trenches have been laid. Interesting choice by Doubt to even walk forward for a second. Not sure what the plan was there. Maybe take a rock to the face. Luckily for him, he won't. Trebuchets are proving frustrating for Doubt. Now, keep in mind, Doubt can easily just keep repairing non-stop at this rate. Unless the Trebuchet count goes up to about 4, that's when it starts to get really difficult to address. It's already at 3. So that point is slowly arriving. The reason he can afford to keep repairing non-stop is, remember, that there's a lot of stone outcroppings in this area. These longbows, man, they keep getting very ambitious about their targets. Would actually love to see some utilization of the flanks here, actually. When you look at the layout, you can see Doubt has made some big mistakes on the way that he's defending his flank. There's a lot of openings over here. Of course, we have God Vision, we can see this. Winchester doesn't know, but it's worth dropping a gate here and sending 1 or 2 knights around just to kind of sniff out a path through. For now, Winchester kind of falling into that distraction or that tunnel vision moment where Sacred Sight's ticking down and you need to address it. And he's at least doing that. Trebuchets, looks like 3 is good enough in the end, as Doubt wasn't willing to pull more people to repair here. Couldn't really afford to do so. Doubt, although he'll lose the keep, he'll win the tech race. Imperial Age is now being built up. It's going to be the Wingard Palace. So Winchester, if he can take a good fight here, this could be catastrophic for Doubt. Mangonel shots coming out. Needs to body block this. Wrap around for the Spearman, getting top of the siege. Mangoes are exposed, but so are the Longbows. Shots coming in. Stagger formation looking good for Doubt. And the spread out the line with the Spears and the Knights looking to hold fast against this. But Winchester looking a bit stronger. His siege ball is threatening deep, and Doubt now completes the tech up, but Winchester has the opportunity to strike. Needs to make sure he keeps pushing more troops. Military count is looking damn healthy for the Rus side here. The first wave does get cleaned up. Men-at-Arms now in the mixer for Winchester. A lot more difficult for Doubt to deal with, considering he's been pushing Spearmen and Longbows. Knights were not able to finish off the Mangoes at the backside. 2 do remain. Doubt now in a Congo line of death, which could prove a little bit of a mess here. Winchester still needs to decap that Sacred Site. Doubt should realize he's actually throwing away troops pointlessly to try and hold this now. So calm down and reset. But he needs to make sure he's calculated in his retreat here. Remember, he just invested 3,600 resources into a tech up. He hasn't actually got the value from that tech up yet. He's still waiting on the upgrades, as you can see here. And part of the problem for Doubt is a lack of gold to get him there. In fact, he hasn't even prepped enclosures yet because he's prioritizing all the elite status upgrades instead. That's going to set him back in the next 2 to 3 minutes. He's already being set back. Trebuchet's now moving in. This is a big deal. A lot of infrastructure was built forward to the base. Remember, one of the big issues of King of the Hill is your space is budgeted. Unless you're Winchester, in which case... in which case, get gold. Get bank, son. Holy. Whew. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's over the cap at this point, right? I think he's over the cap on what he can get gold-wise. Oh, good lordy. Got to be feeling good about those. That's fine. Even if it's just a bit of extra wood wasted, there's plenty of wood on this map. A lot of wood's going to be needed by Doubt to replace all the buildings being lost here. Spearman not ready to fight yet. The Mangoes are unanswered. Keep is going to be built up, and Winchester says, what was once your hill is now mine. You can look upon it from the bottom and enjoy your climb, because it's going to be a difficult one. Horsemen wrapping around from Doubt, but limited options. The walls start to go up. The wooden fortresses are going to be a frustration as well. And 4 horsemen is not really going to draw much attention here. And Doubt, what? How the? What? How did he even get it? Okay. I mean, it's cool, but why? I'm pretty sure Doubt just clicked for a castle here and didn't know about the wall, and miraculously found his way around without dying. However, he's now being chased. The spearmen aren't quickly reacting, so maybe he gets it, but... I mean, I'm kind of the shrug about this, and I think Vinchester should be as well. Like, you don't care about this keep. Truly, in Doubt fashion, you have to question the value of every castle he places, as I am with this one. Especially when so much of your base is being erased. Monastery goes down. No relics anymore. Just sitting on the ground staring and wishing he had that gold trickle. Because remember, Doubt is lacking gold still. Looks like he finally got the enclosures online, so that should insulate him somewhat. But Vinchester, in his form of passive gold generation, doing better here. I mean, I guess it's not truly passive with English farms, but it's a collective benefit. But the Rus are exceeding it. And they're doing so with barely any more people working on the gold. Vinchester now techs up from a position of power. High armory in the back corner. Interesting choice here. This could have been a really good Spasskaya tower game just because he has to tick down on the sacred site. But right now, Siege is propelling him forward, so he just wants the ability to invest in more of that. Doubt is running out of base to hold in here very quickly. He got his keep up. He's at least got gold, so he's staying alive. It's a very big question mark as to what he's doing next, though. In fact, this feels like the type of game where all you're going to do is keep trying to survive. But he needs to do more than that. Remember, that Sacred Site timer is ticking down. It's been almost 2 minutes now for Vinchester. Mangonels. Be careful. Good backstep. Just enough front line here to protect. Trebuchet's trying to snipe now long range on the benefits you have as the English. Usually you have the shattering projectiles, but he hasn't gone for that yet. Spearmen are trying to trade out. Mangos are going to be targeted. One left for Vinchester. Spearmen are going to pursue in, and Vinchester now teched up into Imperial. Trebuchets, in the meantime, continue to siege into the base. And keep in mind that while Doubt will take a fight to hold here, the concern is how he replaces troops long-term. Vinchester, however, has now taken a delayed approach to what Doubt done. He moved in the center. He's got infrastructure all over. He's ready to keep on pushing. See, the pushes are working well for him. Limited troops remaining for Doubt. Difficult to replace all that is lost. The plus side, if you chip through the wood lines quick enough, you get more room, more real estate for your buildings, but you're not that fast at chopping those trees. And the Knights are looking to chop you down now. Oh, he got in with multiples on the south side, and Doubt didn't know us. Oh, well, that's going to be his undoing. Doubt has a lot of idle eco, a lot of idle farms right now. Vinchester still taking wins to the front side as well. Doubt now coming with the transition into men-at-arms, but doubtful about the ability to win these fights. Archers and crossbows are there to answer, and Vinchester now has begun the transition into Streltsy. Already has the military academy, so he pushes them fairly fast every 26 seconds. And Vinchester, well, he has a pretty healthy count of military production buildings, except the archery ranges. 7 racks, 7 stables, but only 4 archers. Means this Streltsy escalation is going to be very slow. But Vinchester doesn't need it to be fast right now. Remember, Doubt's the one on the clock. The Sacred Site is still capped for the Rus. Keep finally going up on the flank here for Doubt. Realizing he doesn't want to be exposed there again, but damage really was already done. Doubt still recovering eco. Hasn't recovered these relics yet. They've just been sitting here mocking him because it's not a safe area to rebuild in yet. And he can't afford to spend room on a monastery when he still needs more military production. What? Oh, hold on. Is Doubt real? Wait, what is this trebuchet attacking? Right. Suppressive fire. Suppressive fire. It's like when you, in StarCraft, when you use a siege tank to just attack a small, like, choke point, just in case someone comes through, you know? Oh, good lord. I mean, these trebuchets are trying, but Doubt is just dying. This is looking pretty moot and irrelevant. I don't feel like Doubt is coming back into this one now. Vinchester is very confidently in control of this game. Doubt is barely half pop cap. You know, looking back at this game, thinking about really what went wrong, I think Doubt's timing for the tech up was a little bit greedy, and he didn't maybe have himself insulated against threats. He didn't have any anti-siege, so he couldn't answer the Mangonels, and he was forced to take a poor fight when his keep goes down, which he was always inevitably going to do. One difference around there he could have looked towards is maybe investing more people onto the stone to try and keep it repaired. That would have forced Winchester to invest in more trebuchets, which locks more of his pop cap behind a unit that isn't going to win the direct fight. But Dao, I mean, I understand the temptation to get to Imperial as quickly as possible. The timing just fell off. You either needed to rush maybe a minute sooner or wait 1 or 2 minutes longer. Maybe get a second keep up before going for it. Another thing that you've got to look at here is the fact that this southern base got to exist completely free. There's been 0 points in this game where this was raided, sold in any fashion or any way. And the surprising part is that you have to remember Doubt did control the mid-map for a long time when Winchester went greedy for his Castle Age. That would have been a prime time for Doubt to maybe just dip into a siege engineering, go for 1 or 2 rams, and take out the secondary TC, which would have been totally free. Because remember that Winchester didn't actually have a standing army for all that time. That's not the case anymore. Vinny boy. Always more or less pop cap. Ring-a-ding-ding goes the bells. As the end is nigh for Doubt. And considering how AFK his trebs are, I think he's starting to forfeit this in his brain. He's just yet to forfeit in the game. This is impressive out of Winchester, though. You know, Doubt, he had a head start, right? He was playing for, I think, 2 extra weeks. And also, I'm not sure if Winchester played AoE form release. I don't recall ever casting him, whereas I definitely recall casting Doubt. So this is just impressive, man. I mean, this shows you this guy is very quick to adapt to the game. I think we could see some cool displays out of him maybe in the 3rd weekly. Whether he's going to go deep enough, I still very much doubt. Like, especially when you consider maybe 6 of the 10 top players at least are going to be competing in each of those weeklies. It'd be very difficult to make that deep of release. And apparently Winchester did play on release. Gotcha. Okay. So he is somewhat familiar. But still, the way he's kind of adapting is impressive. You know, yeah, you can argue this is up against another AoE 2 player, so maybe, you know, Doubt's not as well versed in the meta. But I just want to remind you guys that Winchester has been climbing the ladder quick. We said at the start, this guy already has surpassed Doubt up in the top 65 on the leaderboards now, which is damn impressive. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in the coming weeks. No offense to Good Game, but it's probably Sal's, the esports org's best opportunity to qualify for AoE 4 World Law. As it almost feels like there's this kind of drip between the two. As Winchester gets stronger, Good Game's been getting a little bit weaker on those leaderboards. Don't want to harp on him too much, though. I don't want to be harsh on the lad. This is just all Winchester flexing well. Doubt. Yeah, I think this will be the end. The Lombos are all alone. Like, he's literally got men-at-arms standing here. My only thought is that Doubt is sitting here kind of post-analyzing the game while the game's still going on, because he hasn't really made an attempt to do anything in the last 2 to 3 minutes. It's just been him kind of sitting there going, I don't know what to do against this. Fun to see some King of the Hill, though. Fun to see it manned by AoE 2 pros. Not sure how this will go if we get an AoE 2 Pro versus AoE 4 Pro, but in this situation, Vinny Boy's going to take it, and I just love the build, man. I'm just... the hunting cabins alone. Mwah.